Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another hands down DFS video. It's week 11. We're here breaking down the week 11 DraftKings main slate. Sorry I missed you guys last week, but Scotty held the house down with the week 10 picks. Made a few good picks. Got smashed on the Bucks, but that happens. Don't know what happened there, but Scotty, thanks for being here. Thanks for the video last week.
Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, obviously, tough way to go with Tom Brady deciding to crap the bed. I mean, when I looked up and after it was around 1:30 and I saw that the Buccaneers had two interceptions already, I was like, is Jameis back? So that was frustrating. It was a good matchup for Tom. It was a great, just all around situation. And here we are where he just absolutely wet the bed, and he didn't even have the big second half to kind of make up for it. So frustrating. Tyler Conklin, though, in your honor, got it done for a lot of us who did watch. So appreciate you being here in spirit, even though you weren't here physically.
Yeah, I'd just like to say you made it seem like I picked Tyler Conklin like every week. I think I only picked him twice before that. So,
but I think it was two.
I mean, I'll take the credit.
I think it was two in a row. So. There's a trend. So I knew week 3 was coming, and I couldn't stop the streak. So we'll see. Keep watching for the tight end section. See if Ryan picks Conklin again.
Oh, I like that. A little clickbaity. All right, let's get into week 11. We're going to do the same thing as we've been doing the past few weeks. Just run through each position. Both Scotty and I are going to give you our top pay-up spot, and then kind of our top place to maybe get some salary relief and take some value. So let's just jump in right at quarterback. Scotty, you can take it away. Who's your pay-up spot over in the quarterback position?
Yeah, I mean, I think we both like this game, and it's no surprise to anybody, but Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if our listeners watch a lot of NBA basketball, but we've been seeing this recently with the Warriors, and Bill Simmons kind of coined this, I'm taking it from him, but it's the FU Warriors, where they kept tabs on when everybody said that, you know what, they're a little washed. They're not as good as they used to be. This is the year that you can get your licks in on the Chiefs. And last week, we saw what happens when you really think that. You get a 41-14 drubbing where everything clicks. It looks like, you know what, we're back. Chiefs are back. They're like, hey, we haven't gone anywhere. We're just, bored because of how good we are compared to everybody else. So I'm all in on the Chiefs being back. I think this week is going to be another statement week. Where Mahomes comes out, does his thing, and says, "Hey, yeah, we're not going anywhere. I signed a $40 million year or $4 million year deal.
Long contract.
It's a crazy contract that he has. Well, I mean, if it really is, if you look at it, I think it's 10 years. It's crazy. But yeah, Mahomes is my guy this week because I think they've got a little bit of that. Hey, no, we're still here. We're not going anywhere. And even if this game gets out of hand, which I don't think it will, I think it'll be more of a shootout. I think we saw last week that the Chiefs aren't afraid to put it on people because of some of the narratives that has been going around.
Yeah, I mean, throwback to like week 4 when everyone was saying Mahomes is done, the Chiefs are done, and meanwhile Mahomes was still getting like 30 points a game. But I mean, and he was mid 8,000s. Now he's 7,600. I think that's a great pick. And I'll just take the guy on the other side. I like Dak Prescott at 7,200. I like him. Obviously, the Chiefs' passing defense has just been terrible this year. That's no surprise. Again, these are both kind of more obvious plays. I like Dak a little bit better than Mahomes just because of that discount you get. I think he also is going to come with lower ownership. And, he did obviously had that bad game after the injury against Denver, but came back strong against Atlanta, tossed a couple touchdowns, ran one in. So I think, as Scotty alluded to, this is going to be a shootout of a game. I expect another 3 touchdowns from Dak, whether on the air or on the ground. And, I think he will be chalky, but I think, you can kind of sprinkle in some of his different pass catchers to really kind of differentiate your lineup. You got Cooper and Gallup. Is Gallup back, or is it still Cedric
Gallup's
Wilson
back
at number 3?
As of last week.
Okay, Gallup's back. Obviously, we have CD Lamb, and then the guy we'll talk about in the tight end, but Dalton Schultz. A little spoiler there, but I mean they've got tons of weapons that you can kind of differentiate yourself. So I like Dak this week.
Fair enough. How about your value play?
It pains me to do it, but I'm going to take the elite Joe Flacco at $4,600. For some reason, he's getting the start. I can't tell you what made the Jets make that decision, other than they're just a bad football team and they're just trying to change it up and put a guy that's 57 years old in at quarterback. But hey, 3 for 3 against Buffalo last week, not bad. And the Dolphins defense and a tutty. Yeah, I mean 6 DK points on 3 throws is pretty impressive, honestly.
Assuming he's going to throw like 25 throws, I mean, really
that's 50 points.
There's no way that you don't cash out big.
Yeah. But I mean, this is kind of another spot that we've attacked. The Dolphins are allowing the third most passing yards per games, 2 opposing quarterbacks at 291. It's just, I know Joe Flacco hasn't thrown the ball, well, excluding last week. I don't think he threw a ball last year. So, you have to go back to 2019 season when the last time he got a start in a game was. But he's elite for a reason, right? I mean, got to play him, especially at this price.
Ryan, you texted me earlier this week. Has Joe Flacco thrown a football in 2 weeks, and now you're full go? And I do want to bring something up. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago where we said, the whole Xavier Howard, the Dolphins defense not really being as good as they used to be. Since then, they have been lights great. Out. They have
played great against Baltimore.
They have been so good defensively. And so, I mean, again, spoiler pick going to later. But, I mean, I think the Finns defense is back. But who knows? It's his classic Finns about to, be eliminated from playoff contention. Let's go on a 5 or 6 game winning streak.
Yep. So sounds about right.
Them and the Magic both do it. It's crazy.
So who are you liking for your value quarterback?
For my value quarterback, this was a guy that I don't necessarily love him as a play himself, but I like all of his weapons this week, and that is Jimmy Garoppolo. 5,600. He's just kind of gets you modest points, but he does have upside potential, as you see against that game against Chicago where he had 30. This week, going in against Jacksonville, you see a lot of games for him where he's going up against some pretty tough defenses. Detroit, he only had 18.5, but I mean, at 5,600, that's not terrible if he can get to that 20 mark. But I mean, I really like, obviously they did really well against the Rams last week, obviously more so kind of, with some of the running stuff, and it was able to impose their will against that Rams defensive line, which is crazy to even think about. But you have no Elijah Mitchell, Eli Mitchell, whatever one you want to go by. They still have Kittle's kind of coming back into the rotation, so you should be able to get more looks there. You have Deebo Samuel as well, who we'll talk about later. So I really like Jimmy Garoppolo this week, not necessarily because of him as a quarterback, but because I think, 1, he's going up against Jacksonville. 2, I really like his weapons this week.
Yeah, and I'll bet you'll love him a lot more when I tell you that, according to Fantasy Pros, he's the 25th highest projected owned quarterback. So nobody's on
value.
Him. He's got a great matchup, so can't fault that pick.
Love that. Ryan with the stats. I love it.
Let's move over to running backs. Top play of the week for week 11. Who do you like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was between 2 guys. And they're really, you have to scroll down to get to either of them, but they're right next to each other. A.J. Dillon filling in for Aaron Jones. I think A.J. Dillon could be better than Aaron Jones from a fantasy standpoint, because A.J. Dillon doesn't have A.J. Dillon sharing reps with him. So I think he could see a very big game where, he's going to get a lot of the work, for the 2 weeks that Aaron Jones is going to be out. Last week we saw that, obviously, with a 27-point game. So I do like A.J. Dillon, but the guy that I'm going to go with, the guy that I'm putting my name on, is James Conner. We got no Chase Edmonds in this game. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be out as well. We have seen, obviously, that 40-point game against San Francisco. You got to love that. And we also, with Kyler Murray, his status for this game is still questionable. If it is Colt McCoy that happens to play this game again, I think they still lean on the running game as they did against San Francisco. Carolina, they just kind of saw themselves down the entire game. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case against Seattle. It could be if Murray's not playing, but I like the James Conner, especially if Kyler Murray's not playing. If Kyler Murray isn't playing, maybe then you go over to A.J. Dillon.
And here's some more next gen stats for you. I also really love Connor. I wrote him down on my list too. But uh, you saw if you pull back up his game log, his last 2 games he's been involved in the air kind of a lot more than when Emmons was in. When Emmons is out, but 5 targets, 4 targets, and the Seattle Seahawks are worst in the league, allowing 76 yards per game to running backs through the air, which is like worst in the league by far. So DeAndre Hopkins has already been ruled out. If even if Kyler Murray's in, or if Colt McCoy's in, I think Connor is going to become like a wide receiver too, essentially, along with 10 to 20 rushing rushes a game or this game. So I really like James Conner as well.
Well, there you go. Thank you for padding the stats on that one. How about you? Who do you like for your top play?
I'm just going to warn everyone, these are going to be my next 2 picks are going to be fairly chalky, but Nick Chubb at 7,800 against just whenever you play Detroit, you just kind of plug in the opposing running back. I guess it didn't really work last week against Pittsburgh. For
way to bring that up,
but I don't know. Swift got it done through the air, so So the opposing. What Najee
so it'd be Najee. Najee was all right. I think he got like 18.
Yeah. So, but running backs just score against Detroit through the air, on the ground. They're always in the end zone. Reminds me of the Miami Dolphins theme song. They're in the air. They're all on the ground. They're always in the end zone. That's the new one when you play Detroit. But so Nick Chubb will be chalky, but I'm eating the chalk on him this week.
Does the fact that he's coming off of COVID scare you at all?
No, not really. I think he'll be rested up now to take a little personal bye week. Now he doesn't.
I always think that's always one thing that we just I don't think factor in is how did these guys? I mean, they had COVID, right? And so it's like, how did their bodies respond to? Because we see some guys who are like, I haven't been the same since I got it. I can't it feels like I can't breathe, like whatever. And then we have other guys who are like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like I'm back. Use it as a week of rest. So interesting to maybe if you can get lower ownership on that, but I think it's going to be extremely high anyway. So.
Down.
What about your value play?
Yeah, down in the value play. Again, another chalky play, but at 5,400, Mark Ingram played really well last week against Tennessee. 21 DraftKings points. Obviously, Kamara's out again this week, but he's been used even when Kamara's been in. He's been used in the passing game fairly often. You saw even while Kamara was in, he was getting 2, 3, 5 targets. When he was out, he got 7. So he seems to be utilized. Like obviously, Kamara is just he's a better running back than Mark Ingram. I don't think that's a question, but the Saints are using Ingram basically just as much as they were using Kamara. There wasn't much of a change in game plan around having Mark Ingram as your running back 1. So I think he's going to get the volume this week. He's got a pretty good matchup against Philly, who's been middle of the pack against rushing, or their rushing defense has been middle of the pack against running backs. So don't hate the matchup. Think he's getting the volume. 5,400. He's a safe play. I think he's a good cash play. So I like Mark Ingram again this week.
I love it. I think he's a great play. My play is kind of similar along that lines of, top guys going to be out. Let's see where he is. There he is. Jeff Wilson. I think Jeff Wilson is somebody who, last year showed a lot of flashes of being a great running back, and this year Eli Mitchell kind of came in, and you also have Trey Sermon, but he hasn't really done much. And Wilson kind of got hurt at the beginning of the year. I think it was either in even training camp or something like that, but he wasn't playing for the majority of the year, kind of fell out of the rotation. Now, this week is kind of his prove-it week where he's going to be against Jacksonville, doesn't have a great rush defense, and, or just great defense at all, really. And the 49ers could get up early, and then Jeff Wilson could really show, he's a dynamic runner. At 5,100, I think you're going to see a lot of lineups with Ingram and Wilson this week, especially with Mitchell and Kamara out.
Yeah, I don't hate that play. Again, these are just like these low 5,000 guys whose their top running back isn't starting. You imagine you just plug them in your cash. At the very least, you're plugging them in your cash game, and they're kind of returning you 3x-ish value, and you say, okay, take your double up and move on to the next week. So don't hate that play.
There you go.
Over to wide receivers. We kind of went a little bit chalkier at running back as our Are you sticking with the chalk and wide receiver? Who do you like for your top guy?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. And like I said, I was just talking about Jeff Wilson and going back to that game. Yeah, I think the way that the 49ers get up early is with Deebo Samuel. I mean, I don't know why, but there's some kind of bias against him as far as like not thinking of him as like an elite wide receiver, but his numbers are elite. I mean, obviously, I think maybe the reason why is one, because he has Jimmy Garoppolo throwing to him. So I think that probably handicaps him a little bit in people's minds. Two, you never know sometimes what you're going to get out of the 49ers passing game. But, I mean, if you look at his stats outside of the Arizona game, which Arizona's a good defense, you're going to see, like, you have two Arizona games. Other than that, you have 38, 25, 26, 30. They're going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's not in Arizona. And so I think this could be a huge game for him. I think he can hit that 100-yard receiving mark pretty easily. Heck, if you even throw a touchdown in there, you're looking pretty good. And the wild thing is, I mean, he's getting targets, so that's not the issue. But, I mean, he had 171 yards against Chicago on 6 catches.
Yeah, I mean,
like, he's averaging, like, yeah, every time he touches the ball, it's at least, around 20 yards a game. I mean, he has the couple 12s, but again, that's against Arizona. And so, yeah, I think every time he touches the ball and he's getting a lot of targets, I mean, and he's also rushing a little bit too. Like, they're not afraid to use him in the red zone on a jet sweep to get him a touchdown there.
Yeah,
so
5 attempts last game.
Yeah. So there's a lot to like about Deebo. I don't think they necessarily have to use him in the running game as much against Jacksonville. They don't have to use as many of the gadget plays, but I still think he's going to be highly involved as their top wide receiver. And, I mean, pop quiz, name another wide receiver on San Francisco.
I mean, has Brandon Ayuk showed up to a game this year? I mean, he's he's a guy that I liked coming into the season, but he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, so, I mean, you do have Kittle, obviously, as well, but, I mean, as far as wide receivers, you have Ayuk, who hasn't done anything, and then, other than that,
yeah,
who are you competing for on targets? So,
yeah.
How about you?
I'm going to go with just purely a leverage play in Justin Jefferson at 8,100. I don't think he has his team has the greatest matchup. Obviously, Green Bay just shut down Seattle, and Russell Wilson's comeback last week. So that does scare me a little bit. But, what makes me like him is scrolling through projections, and this is where it helps kind of have some ownership projections. If you want some, like, we're partnering with DG Fantasy, Daily Grind Fantasy, so you can check out the link in the description, and you can get $5 off your first month with them. But, using their projections, he's the 46th highest owned wide receiver this week. 46, despite being the third highest price. Points wise, he is only projected at like the 7th highest points. So you're thinking, paying the third highest price for wide receiver and only getting the 7th highest points, that's not great. But when you're going to get like close to less than 5% ownership on him, less than 5% ownership on him. Obviously, we know Jair Alexander still, I guess, still isn't back. They have a matchup against Kevin King for Green Bay, who's been Green Bay's worst defensive back this year. He's averaging 15 points per game to his opposing wide receivers. So, I mean, Justin Jefferson, again, doesn't have the best matchup against Green Bay, but you're going to get a lot of leverage with him, going to get low ownership. Still has a pretty decent ceiling at like 30 points, so I don't like him I don't hate him as a kind of, that's how you differentiate yourself. You pay up a lot for wide receiver and plug him in.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the week against Baltimore, we were kind of against him, and we thought, Marlon Humphrey would be shadowing him, and that's a great matchup on the Detroit side, and, he still balled out, and so I think Justin Jefferson showed that he's matchup proof. Also, I think Minnesota's going to be behind a lot in this game, so I really like Justin Jefferson. I don't understand why the ownership's that low, so I think that's a great pick.
Yep. For my value, I'll kick off the value. I talked about Joe Flacco and the Jets against the Dolphins defense. If you still don't believe the Dolphins defense is back,
I gotta find these guys.
Then you got to go to Elijah Moore at 4,900, who's has stepped up really since the bye week. Again, like, this is purely play based on matchup. I know we talked about the Dolphins defense maybe being back, but that Baltimore game was weird. They blitzed almost like every down and just didn't give Lamar Jackson time to throw the ball, made him make a quick decision, which kind of is how you beat him. So think that was a good scheme for Baltimore. I don't know if it works against Joe Flacco and his eliteness. But Moore is averaging 16 DraftKings points since that bye week, since it's just bye week in week 6, and he's had, 4 different QBs now throw to him. So taking that 16 DraftKings point average, 4,900, that's 3.3 times value. Again, you're going against a weaker defense, weaker than Buffalo, weaker than Indy, probably weaker than Cincinnati and New England as well. So probably his best matchup that he's had in the last 4 weeks for 4,900. I think he's going to be a really good play again this week.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you said, I got to agree with. But I think if you keep bringing out these Jets guys, I might have to, next week say, oh, guys, you know what? Ryan couldn't make the show again. Because, Joe Flacco and Elijah Moore, that hurts. Yeah, I guess for a GPP play. But, man, we're really going to put our lineup on.
Are you going to be putting money on the New York Jets? And that's, it's hard to do. I understand.
It's hard to do, but you're right. Like, look at this. Look at these numbers. 13, 27, 13, 10. Like, you are so right. It's just, man, that's a hard pill for me to swallow. And you know what? You're right, because even my reaction is proof that what you're saying is true. Because you have other people who are thinking the exact same thing. And they're like, you know what? There's no chance that I'm putting anything on the Jets. And you know what? They could have a great game. So I hate it, but I think you're right. But yeah,
I completely understand. It hurts to pick Jets as a Dolphins fan, but who do you like for value?
Confirmation bias. If they have a bad game,
yeah, exactly.
You'll hear about it next week. MVS. Speaking of bad plays,
it's a great way to start.
Somebody, he's somebody that I like. I think this game could be high scoring. I think, especially from the Packers side, I think that you're going to get a lot of passing opportunities. You are going to see here, if you go over, that Lazard is not going to be playing in this game as doubtful with a shoulder injury. Last week, I think Ryan pulled up the stats, prior to recording this. I think he was around, 66% of the snaps or something like that. That MVS was, he was out there. He only had the one catch for the 41 yards, but he is the deep threat. He has that ability. And so I think, if he's going to be out there for the majority of the game and Lazard's not going to be getting as many targets, I think, you could see him get some underneath stuff as well, and open up that big play as well, if you kind of get them sinking in there. So I like Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball around a lot, especially with Aaron Jones out. I think A.J. Dillon, as I said earlier, is going to be fine, so I think they'll be fine running the ball, but it's just another weapon that isn't going to have to split touches. So with Lazard and Aaron Jones out, I'm going to go with MVS as my value wide receiver.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good GPP pivot, because there's no way that MVS is coming in like anywhere close to more than 2% ownership. So if he does catch a touchdown, you have a huge advantage.
Yeah. How about, don't put him in your cash plays?
Yeah, definitely. Over to tight end, who do you like for your pay up spot this week?
I like Dalton Dallas Schultz as my pay up spot. I think he, as we've talked about, and we've really, this is not a surprise in the DFS world. You go after games that are going to have high point totals. This game is going to have that. Obviously, it's a little concerning that, when a team scores 43 points and your guy only gets 2 points, that's not necessarily something that you love to see. But, I like the tight end in this spot for Dallas, because I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. We did get an update right before recording this that Amari Cooper is not going to be in this game due to COVID protocols. So I think Dalton Schultz is going to get some extra looks there now that has kind of been opened up as well.
Yeah, and again, we love this game. I really like Dak, and kind of this was the reason, because you have actually, thanks for reminding me about Cooper. But yeah, so now you have Schultz and Gallup, who should be getting significant targets, and they're at a very cheap price. So really like that play. For my kind of pay up, he's not so much of a pay up. He's only $4,000, but I think Dawson Knox should have a bounce back week at $4,000. He had a disappointing week last week in his return from that neck injury, I believe, or hand injury. But you're playing the Jets. When you play the Jets, things change. As much as I love the Jets this week and love Joe Flacco and love Elijah Moore, they're just not a great team, and it makes games kind of slow and ugly. And I think Josh Allen only threw the ball like 26 times or something like that. It just was. I think they were kind of working Dawson Knox back into the lineup. Didn't need to give him that many looks. Didn't need to kind of break his hand again. So I think this is the week where we can kind of give, he fits into his more normal role where he was before the injury, seeing 5, 8 targets. I mean, even 4, like with a touchdown in there, that's good value right there. So yeah, I think against Indianapolis, it's a game where the Bills are going to be throwing the ball a lot more than they needed to. They're going to need to throw the ball a lot more than they did against the Jets. And I think Dawson Knox continues to be the kind of the second highest targeted guy on that team behind Stephon Diggs, obviously. Maybe right there with Emmanuel Sanders for number 2. So I think Knox is going to have a bounce back week this week, and I think he's fairly cheap.
I agree. I think we were big on him last week, and so I think there's no reason to not be big on him this week with what we got going forward. We liked him, and so I see no reason to not like him again this week.
Yep. How about your value tight end?
Yeah, value tight end. I'm going to go all the way down because we are going to see that Jeff Swaim is out. That's why I'm scrolling down. I wanted you to see that. We're not going to have Jeff Swaim, who is a legend around these parts. I will say that. But I like his backup at 2,600, Nicole Pruitt. Last week, he only saw 1 target, but it was a red zone target. Caught it, 2 yards, touchdown. Got him 7.2. I think he's going to see more usage against Houston than just, the 1 throw. And so I really do like him to be kind of the red zone threat for Tennessee. As they kind of have to evolve that, now that they don't have Derrick Henry. They can't just, run the ball 3 times and be like, yep, we're going to end up in the end zone. They got to throw some more. Julio, I think, is still out. And so even McNichols is not going to be playing with the concussion. So you are going to see a little bit of a banged up Titans team. There's no reason to worry against the Titans or the Texans, but I do think the Titans do have a chance to, throw the ball around and get Pruitt involved.
Quick sidebar. Do you like Adrian Peterson at all?
Kind of. Maybe.
I mean, I feel like against Houston, 40.
I think Foreman is getting a lot of usage. So I think it's a 2-headed monster you got there.
Yeah, 11 carries last week. Yeah, just kind of curious. I was wondering what to do with the Tennessee backfield, but for my value tight end play, CJ Uzoma 3,500 he's really kind of played a big role in this Bengals offense, much bigger than I think some people were expecting. So they've got a slew of good wide receivers, but the Raiders are allowing the second most DraftKings points per game to tight ends this year, and Uzoma's targets have kind of steadily increased. See, 2 in week 5, then went 3 and 6 and 7, 4 in week 8, 5 last time they played in week 9. I think this is a fairly cheap price. He's actually come down a bit in price from the last couple of weeks. I see there he was 3,900 last in week 9. Now down $400, 3,500 against a team that's allowing a lot of points to tight ends. I think Uzoma's kind of filling a big role in that team, and I think he's a good play this week.
Yeah, fully agree there. I was honestly surprised to see him that low, so I think it's a great play.
Yep. Let's cover defense real quick because we're kind of already nearing 30 minutes and we still need to build a lineup. So real quick, I'll just run it first. If the Browns don't blow it like they did against the Patriots last week, they're playing Detroit this week. I think they should be a fine play. They're still relatively cheap at 3,100. And then I guess Carolina against Washington. I don't think Washington has that good of an offense. Obviously, Carolina's had a fairly decent defense this year. I think this game's just low scoring overall. So kind of those are my 2 defenses I'm looking at this week. How about you?
Okay. And I like your guys. I'm surprised you didn't go with them. The Dolphins against the Jets, specifically Joe Flacco. I think that's kind of why I had some pent-up hate against the Jets this week, is because I knew the Fins were my defense. So I kind of had to start that early. And then 2, for my value play, I'm going to go with the Washington football team as the other side of the game that you picked because, I just don't trust Cam Newton. It's fun and exciting to have him back on Carolina, and that's a good storyline, but I don't think anybody remembers how bad he was on the Patriots last year. So obviously you get no Chase Young, you get no Sweat, but this defense was able to put 5 points on the board, even against Tampa Bay. Carolina's no Tampa Bay, so I like them this week.
Yeah, I like them as well. All right, let's try to knock out this lineup. Who are we putting at quarterback? I don't think we should put Joe Flacco, so I'll let you take it from there.
I mean, I don't know if we want to throw Garoppolo in there either. I'd be okay with throwing Dak in there as our quarterback. I think we got some good stack ability, and I think we have two low priced.
And like I mentioned, I like Dak a little bit better than Mahomes just because when you put in Mahomes, you're kind of forced to play either Hill or Kelsey, and both of those guys are between playing Mahomes and then playing Hill or Kelsey. Yeah, that's a large chunk of your bankroll. So Dak gets you some more flexibility. So let's go with Dak. Should we just figure out who we want to stack him with? Do we want to go with Schultz or Lamb or Gallup?
I mean, Lamb's pricey here.
Yeah.
I do like. Let me pull up the wide receivers. So I mean, I think Gallup could be a fine play at 4,200. If we want to go kind of more conservative. Obviously, CD is going to get a lot of usage.
Yeah.
But I think Gallup could be there too. So either of those two.
Yeah, I mean,
depending on if we want to pay up or not.
Well, let's put Gallup in there for now. Just because I think he does bring good value. We can kind of come back, and if we find the flexibility to fit Lamb in there, maybe we can do that. Do we want to run it back with Kansas City and throw in Hill or Kelsey, or is that kind of, that kind of goes back to it's a large chunk of your bankroll, but Hill is, I feel like 8,200 is a fairly reasonable price for him. I know it's expensive, but he does have like a 40-point ceiling.
I think we could do Hill and then go Jeff Wilson and Mark Ingram for our running backs.
Yeah, let's try that.
Obviously, we're going to be missing out on James Conner, but it's okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of something I had written down when I was going to talk about all my chalky running back plays, that you don't need to kind of differentiate yourself and get the 1% guy in every single position. Like if you're eating the chalk at running back, which we're doing, like playing the two guys with injured starters, there's other ways to kind of differentiate yourself. So I think that's fine. All right. Let's see. How about at tight end? I feel like we got a reasonable salary left.
I like Uzama.
Yeah, I think Uzoma is a really good play. I think he's too cheap. So I like Uzoma. Should we plug in one of the Carolina or Washington defenses and then see what we're dealing with for the rest of our skill positions?
Yeah, I think. Oh man, do we go Carolina? I think we do.
It's just do we trust Cam Newton essentially?
That's the thing. Like
without Chase Young, I know they did fine last week, but that is kind of scary. But
fine. Okay. So we got 68. It's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Do we want to just go nuts on the wide receivers and throw Justin Jefferson in there? Or Debo? Debo's an option as well.
Yeah, I think Debo's the safer play. I think Justin Jefferson does have downside risk. It's more of just you are getting the leverage of him going to be very low owned. I think there's other guys that like Brandon Cooks at 6,000 is, that middle. I feel like he's consistent every week, getting 15 points. He's going against apparently the worst passing defense in the NFL and the Titans. I think he's kind of like a fine, safe play. Jalen Waddle against the Jets is another guy that I think is very safe. We could go my guy Elijah Moore, but again, that's putting money on the Jets, which is not something we love to do on this show. So
yeah, and I don't think we need to go Elijah Moore just because we have 6,900 left per player. So I think we could do either Waddle or Cooks, and then I think that gives us enough to.
Yeah, let's see what Cooks gives us up top. Probably fit in Debo with that. No, just missing out on him. Unfortunate.
Tough. If we do go Washington instead of Panthers, we can fit that in. But
yeah, that's fine. I'm good with that. I think both of those defenses are fine to play, honestly. I just don't think this game is high scoring at all.
Take the under. Let's see who's at. Oh, and then we're at 100 away from Jefferson.
I mean, that's okay. Like, I don't need to play Jefferson. But now I'm wondering,
Okay.
yeah, Debo. I was between Devo and Chubb, but I just think Chubb is going to be just very chalky. And
Could do Chubb.
what?
I said we could do Chubb, or we could also do. And here, okay, this hurts. This hurts. I want you to know this hurts. Oh, still hurts. Pain. A lot of pain. And then, does this get us enough for CD?
Oh, so close.
No, we're off. We're off 300.
So,
Tough.
what if we shake it up and now we're getting real fancy? So, what if we replace Tyreek Hill with CeeDee Lamb, and then replace CJ Uzoma with Kelsey? So now we're dealing with 4,300 for our last wide
And we
receiver.
do still have Elijah Morris in there still.
Yeah. So I don't know if I love that. Although that does get us to Gallup. We could double stack that Dallas
Just
game.
go nuts with it.
Yeah, just hope that Dallas puts up 40 points or something.
Dallas, and you we trust.
Dak Prescott, Wilson, and Ingram at our running backs. We got the Lamb and Gallup double stack with bringing it back with Kelsey. Then we're plugging in Cooks, Elijah Moore, closing out with the Washington football team defense against Carolina. I don't hate that. I think that's a good starting spot. And again, if you are new here, follow us at Hands Down DFS on Twitter, and we'll post. Scotty and I will discuss offline, and we'll kind of post our finalized lineup. This will probably be the core of it, but we'll make some small tweaks based on injury news or just whatever else we feel like we might be able to get an advantage on. So follow us there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this Week 11 breakdown. Hit that subscribe button if you like, or leave a comment if you have questions, want to know more about a specific player. We can try to answer them. And make sure you stay tuned for our next week's content. Scotty, anything else before we send everyone packing?
Just any kind of good vibes you can send to the Cowboys, just please. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Because the double stack scare me, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
This is going to be the week. This is the week we win it. We were retiring next week. I know we've already said that once, but
no video next week. We're retiring. So it's been a pleasure, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Good luck this week. Until next time.
See ya.